now we are ready to begin our actual cables. So I'm going to click the plus symbol in my layers dialog. You can see this is Shift Control L, or you can go up to layer and then go all the way down to layers. Now I'm going to name this cable. Add. Make sure that this is above all of my other layers, and also make sure that all the layers below it are locked, because we do not want to accidentally move something after all of this work. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to select the Bezier Curves and Straight Lines tool. It's between the pencil and the calligraphy tool that we used earlier. Now, click in a random place outside of your grid, and then double click in another spot, and you will get an example of your line. Right click on the line itself, go to Fill and Stroke. Make sure that your fill is turned off, and your stroke paint, you want to set that to some form of a contrasting color. You may want to use a different shade of gray. I personally like navy blue because I find that it prints well both in black and white and in color and shows a good contrast with my lines. Then you want to set your stroke style. I like to keep my cap to a rounded cap. I do like to have rounded joins just for a little bit of a smoother appearance. And I like to set mine to about 3 times the width of my lines here, which mine is currently set to 1 pixel, and so mine is set to 3 pixels. You may want to try a 2 pixel or even a 1.5. I would try to keep it a little bit larger, at least, than your actual grid lines, or you won't have a very good contrast and it may be a little bit difficult to see the edges of your cable. Remember, these are drone cables. This is a lot different look, really, than a font cable. Now, delete your example here after you've made sure that your tool to set up here is set to the 3. If it's not, double click. I'm going to have to drag that down a little bit so that I can actually see it. Just kind of move that around. And you can click Take from Selection, which means that it will be whatever this line over here is. And then close. And now, since I already have that selected, I'm just going to hit the Delete button. Or rather, I'm going to go to Select up here to make sure that's selected, and then I'll hit Delete. It's not deleting for some reason. There we go. It's just a little slow. That's okay. So now, I'm going to verify again that I'm within my cable. I am going to now edit my guides, which is will probably soon be your least favorite thing to hear me say to do. So this guide here will come to the very top of the grid, and I'm going to close both of these views here so that I can really zoom in just a little bit more so that I can really see my guides. And you actually want it to come in so that it's at the top, but you want it to be at the bottom top. Come down, make the same adjustment here. Now we are going to set this so that we have a grid here, a grid in the center, a grid in another center. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a guide here. I'm going to move this guide over so that it separates your stitches. And so wherever you have your stitches separated, you want a guide. So I'm going to double click on this guide here, set that to 339. And now I'm going to edit this second guide, and I'm going to do 339 plus 18 plus 18. That gets me to 375. Click OK. And that puts that right dead in the middle here. I'm going to right click here, go down to delete, which doesn't always work the way you want it to, so you may have to double click to delete. And part of this really depends on the speed of your computer and how many programs you have running, which means how much memory is available really. In my case, I happen to be doing a screencast at the same time that I'm working in a graphics program, and those two generally don't mix. So now I have my vertical guide set for my cable. I have the top and the bottom guide set. So now what I need is I need to set the guides right here at each of my cross points. And so I'm going to come in here, drag this down until it's in the center pretty much. Double click. And you do not have to necessarily do this step. I like to double click and make sure that all of my guides are as close to perfect as I can get them. It's not necessarily something that you have to do, especially for cables. You have a little bit more leeway with cables than you do with your other stitches, as these are a little closer to being art in a way, which is actually I think it's probably why I like designing them. So if I come here, I'm going to drag this up into position, double click, set that to 646, okay, and then I'm going to double click on this one and change it to 628. And so you've probably noticed by now that pretty much my actual grid lines are staying very close to, some of them stay where they are, but then some of them move, and that happens to be the reason why you want to make sure that you're always finished with whichever layer you were working on previously. And now I'm going to talk you through this by clicking with the mouse, which is definitely not, in my opinion, the way to do this. I do recommend that if you'll be doing very many of these sorts of things, that you invest in a small tablet. It's definitely worth it. And so now go up here, make sure that you have snapping enabled. Click, click, click. Go up. Now here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want this to be about in the middle line here. And we will add as a guide in a minute to that section to get it there. So now just go down. And so you notice I'm tracing the edge right here. Then move all the way down to connect that next line. Follow the line down to the next one and then connect across. Okay. And so now we're going to do the second part of the space here. Connect. And so you go up, all the way up to where your lines previously began. You're going to connect this here, do another snap, down, then across. And so I'm going to click right in the middle. So I'm just tracing the shape of earlier. And you do want these to overlap with each other, as that one just did all the way down the center bar. That's part of what will help you later on to get your continuity. And so I clicked right there on that center.